Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, this is Kelly, and I am here today with Emily Stapleton. Emily and I have so much to share with you, and I want to start by introducing her as somebody that I met at a fitness conference in 2016. We met very briefly. I was actually in the process of starting my indoor fitness studio, and I was talking about the name of it, and Emily was in the room and part of the conversation. At the time, she did not live near us. However, she ended up relocating to Northern Virginia, right near Energy, which is what we ended up naming the fitness studio, and became one of our yoga instructors. So Emily and I worked together for several years. She was part of the dream team and has moved away and now lives in Cincinnati, right?
That's right.
Yes. Okay. Now lives in Cincinnati. And she reached out to me to let me know that she was starting a content writing business and wanted to know if I had any work to be done. And truth be told, I don't hire out for my writing. A lot of our writing is just really casual, but I really loved Emily. And I was excited for her current venture of starting this content writing business. I knew that she was a really awesome communicator. So I said yes, and she helped me with this email campaign that ended up being, I thought, really awesome. And I really, really liked working with her. I think that was a big part of it as well. So in the end, after we finished doing the email campaign, Emily said, well, just Kelly, let me know if there's anything else you want me to help with. And I said, yeah. I want you to help me write a book. And I had it on my heart for years and years to write a book. And I knew that it was going to be something that was really challenging for me organizationally. And I knew that I really would need help. And I thought, based on our interaction together, that Emily was the right person. And I couldn't be more right about that. That was actually great intuition on my part. That's something we talk a lot about on the book. But I trusted my gut. Something told me right then and there to ask Emily to help me write a book. And she said yes. So I actually want to start by reading just something that I wrote in the book to acknowledge Emily about our process of writing a book. And then I'm going to introduce Emily, and then I'm going to let her talk. I'm being a little bit of a hog right now. Okay, so I said, to Emily Stapleton, one of my favorite sayings is to enjoy the process, not just the outcome. Of course, I wanted this book to come to be, but even if it didn't, it still would have been worth it because of the insightful and powerful conversations that we had together. Emily's a trusted friend, confidant, coach, gifted writer, and listener. Writing this book was incredibly therapeutic, and I believe Emily was a big part of that. We did it. So I'd like to introduce Emily to you guys and let her share kind of her side of our whole relationship together.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm so glad to be here talking with you today, and it feels so natural because so much of our book writing process was done in a similar format where you were in Northern Virginia and I was here in Cincinnati where I live, and we would connect weekly or even more often sometimes. And it really felt like you were in the room with me every single time. I never thought technology could be this personal. So I love doing this today. Thank you so much. And I'll just kind of echo that story about sort of how we met. I just remember being in that fitness conference. And if anyone's been to a fitness conference, you know that a lot of it is working out. Like, we go to workouts and we learn new skills and new ways to teach and all of these things. Because I, at the time, was also working in the fitness industry. But sometimes we go and sit at desks where we are learning more about the business of fitness or the ways to connect and ways to communicate. And so that was what we were doing. And Kelly asked a question, and I remember it so well because she was talking about how she had started this business and that it was usually called Kelly's Boot Camp. But now she was expanding, and she was like, I don't know if it should still be called my own name because now it's going to be in a studio and I'm having all these other instructors. And it struck me, her energy. Of course, those of you that know Kelly know that her energy and her intention was contagious, but also it was a tribute to how growth was happening within her business, and she was trying to manage it well, right? Like, as if you read the book, and if you know Kelly, you know that Kelly's boot camp started with one single workout, and then it grew from there. And so I just remember thinking, wow, this is a professional who started something because it was on her heart. And now here she is trying to figure out, okay, I've got something bigger now. How do I share it with the world? How is it not mine anymore, but it's ours? It belongs to everyone. So I was really struck by that.
Yeah.
But all of that, I didn't know that our paths were going to cross again, right? So I think afterwards, I just, as we do at these conferences, kind of connected a little bit by saying, hey, your story really connected with me. I also teach some outdoor workouts. Thanks for sharing. And I thought that was probably it, right? I didn't know. So then when my path brought me to Northern Virginia and I started looking up fitness studios near me, and I saw it and I was like, wait, this is the person from 3 years ago that I was inspired by. And then that's when I kind of reached out and asked about teaching yoga there. And that was one step.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that I remember about you, Emily, that really impressed me was it was February when you started, and we had our winter challenge party. You had just joined the team, and I always invite the whole team, whether they're involved in the winter challenge or not, to the winter challenge party, which is hundreds of people in my home. It's a zoo. Like, you would not want to be there unless you were part of the winter challenge. And I warned her. I said, Emily, it's going to be crazy. There's going to be so many people there. Like, I probably won't really get, because she didn't really know anyone at that point but me. And she came. And she was a rock star, and she met a bunch of people, and everyone was like, I love her. Kelly, where'd she come from? I'm like, oh, she's new. She's going to be part of the team. You also taught for us during the pandemic. You did an incredible job of delivering yoga to our community during the pandemic, which was absolutely awesome.
Well, Kelly, let me make a comment on that winter challenge party, because, and I know you've cleared this up in some other podcasts, but if somebody jumps in this podcast and they're not familiar with the KBC community, they won't understand what the winter challenge is. And they still won't unless they do it, because it's not like your regular fitness challenge. It's massive. It's all encompassing. People jump in with their whole entire soul and body. And then it all culminates with this party, this event at Kelly's house. And it's not what I did, because I think that was how I knew early on that this fitness community was different, that it wasn't just about the fitness. That was kind of the thing that brought people together, but it was truly about community, and it was so evident. So I think going to that party right from the get-go helped me. Little did I know, it helped me encourage you in your writing of the book, because it helped me understand the community that KBC is.
Yeah. And Emily, talk to us, give us an idea, because you certainly started before you're ready several times, and that is the name of this podcast. So talk to us about your content writing business and how and why you started that.
Sure. So I am a mom of 4 kids, and I have spent a lot of my mothering years as what you would call a stay-at-home mom, but also always doing a little something, part-time work or sometimes volunteer work, but doing things outside of the home as well. And so fitness is the thing I did for many years, and at different levels. Sometimes it was just teaching 1 or 2 classes a week, and sometimes it was having a full roster of personal training clients, but always kind of working that around my work at home with my kids and my family. So a few years ago, I just started to feel like I still loved fitness, but I wanted to just try something different, maybe using the skills that I had gained through my career in the fitness industry. And I kind of asked myself, what do I most enjoy about fitness? And one of the things was just connecting with people, right? Connecting people together, connecting people to a fitness program. And some of that is writing. Some of that is talking. And I did some research, and I just found that I was going to try this writing thing, and I was going to do it maybe in the fitness community with people that I already knew, but also be open to doing it in other industries as well. It's something that could be flexible, so I could still continue to do that work, but also focus on the important work of continuing to raise my kids. So, and I started by just reaching out to people that I knew, and you were one of those people that I reached out to, not really asking you for work specifically, though that was great, but even saying, hey, Kelly, you're so well connected. do you know somebody who might be looking for some help with their communication, with their marketing, any of those sorts of things?
Yeah. Well, I think that speaks to you, Emily. It's just like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I knew who you were as a person, a community member, just how you showed up. And I knew whatever you were taking on with this writing venture was going to be good. And that is one thing about me. I have great instincts when it comes to people. And I was like, I want to be part of it. If Emily's starting a writing business, I want to be part of it. So it was selfish as well. I do want to actually talk a little bit about your thoughts when I asked you to write a book. Because just to be clear, you guys, Emily has never written a book either. We were rookies together, and we both learned so much, and that's part of the whole process. And I shared earlier that for me, a lot of what I was writing about was very heavy and hard. And I think that was one of the reasons that I was so reluctant. But it turns out that's exactly why I should be writing a book, or I should be writing, because it was incredibly therapeutic. And meeting with Emily every week was really therapy for me, to be totally honest. Unfortunately, I've never experienced therapy. I definitely should have. If you read my book, you'll understand there's definitely been some chapters that I probably needed some help getting through, but I felt like it was a release of so many things. And to be totally transparent, I would cry on the call with Emily, and then I would cry for the rest of the day, which it sounds terrible. Like, oh my gosh, why would you do that to yourself? But I think it was really, really good for me. So I'm so grateful for the process. And that's one thing that I want to say over and over and over again to anybody that's thinking of writing a book, or just kind of getting their thoughts down on paper. The part that I was the most scared about turned out to be probably in my personal opinion, one of the biggest benefits of the book. Emily, what would you say? What was your thought when I said I want you to write a book? I want you to help me write a book.
Right. So to be clear, I had very few clients. I had just started this new venture, right? Another one of my clients was a really good friend of mine who runs a totally different kind of business. She's a wedding planner. I did some little bios for her that were literally about 6 sentences each. I did about 15 of those. And then I did these emails for you, Kelly, which were emails, right? There are a few paragraphs. I did 5 of those, and I was loving it. It's great. And then I was writing my own website. And then this is exactly what happened. Kelly sends me a text, and you say, I've got your next project. Let's get on a call. You were probably at a conference or at a mastermind or something like that where your brain was like, I'm going to do this thing. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's get on a call. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be another email, or maybe she wanted to help with her weekly newsletter or something short form. And she says, we're going to write a book. That's what you said. You said, we're going to write a book. I'm like, who's all the we?
Because if it means something to you.
You, me, and who else is going to write a book? And you were like, no, you and me, we're going to write a book. And I'm like, I don't really know how. And you said, I don't know either, but I know we can do it. So I just said, okay, yes, let's write a book. And that started the process. And that's kind of how the whole process went. There were times when and we can get into this later if this was on your plan, but when we did the interviews, we didn't know how to do that either, or even why we were doing it. But we were like, let's just do some interviews. Just get people on a call and let's interview them and let's see if that adds value. And so I feel like that initial conversation between us really is what started our process of, okay, we don't know exactly how to do it, but we do know some things, right? We both come to the table with some skills. I will say that the reason I said yes is because I already knew that you had amazing things to share. I didn't know a lot of the details that I learned along the way, but I knew that you were inspiring and you had amazing things to share. And then on the flip side, I was confident that I had the skills to get that message out clearly, right? So anybody who's listening, just so you know how this works, everything in the book is fully and wholly Kelly's story. There's none of my stories in the book. But what I did was help to make sure those stories were clear and that the message that Kelly wanted to get out was coming across in the same way it would if she was teaching a fitness class or sitting down with a friend to a cup of coffee. So I knew I could do that. I knew if I could get those stories from you, then I could get them in a way that people could read and relate to.
And there were so many different ways. I mean, it's not a chronological book. It's not a memoir. It's called the platform book. And there's a lot of things intertwined within the book. So we wanted my stories, we wanted the community's stories, we wanted my take on the community stories, we wanted to share the 40 mantras that I wanted everyone to know about. We so many things that we wanted to get into this book, and the organization piece is what I struggle with the most in everything. That's my weakness, and clearly Emily's strength. So that was also really, really helpful. I think one thing I want to say too is, one thing for me that is so important in any of my endeavors or anybody that I work with is I have to feel like they really want to do it. Like I don't, it's never about money. It's never about, is this something that's important to them? Is this something that they value? Is this something that they enjoy? And I could feel that so much with Emily, that she she liked my stories when I would tell her stories.
Oh yeah.
She loves people. She sees she sees the value in some things that other people maybe might not as much. So I think for me, that was a huge motivator, knowing that Emily would enjoy the process too. That was just something that's just a personal thing that was important to me. So I just wanted to share that as well. And then I also wanted to share about the podcast. So this podcast is because of Emily as well, basically. I loved the part of the book. So Emily shared already that one of the things that we wanted to do in the book was ask people in our community to share their stories. So it wasn't just all my story. It was other stories of people finding fitness or finding a better path for their health. And Emily thought it would be better if she did the interviews. She's like, I just think that people will tell their story because I don't know their story. It will be a better process. And she was absolutely right. But what I learned is that when Emily would do the interviews and she'd send them to me, like listening to them, it was like, to me, I really enjoyed listening to people's stories. And as we were finishing up the book, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like this is just a taste. A lot of them are mine. Basically, we just asked people like who would be willing to do it. And if they reached out to Emily, then we shared their story. I don't think anybody got rejected from our process.
No.
I think everyone that wanted to share their story did. As long as they set up an interview with Emily, that was really the only requirement. Their stories were awesome. I wouldn't reject any of them anyway. But there's so many other stories, and other people maybe thought that like I didn't want them in I don't know. I felt like I want to share more stories. So now the podcast is going to be also sharing more stories from people in our community, people that have had great success, people that have had great challenges. So I think that is just a really special part of all of this. Whether people love the book or not, I'm loving doing podcasts. It is so fun for me. I look forward to it. It lights me up. It energizes me. And that would have never happened if I didn't start the book. So that is an important point. Would you agree, Emily?
Yes. And one thing I love about the idea of the podcast is like, so the book is finite. It's finished. It's going to be as it is. You can write a sequel, sure, but you can't continue to add. And so those stories that we shared have happened. They're continuing to happen. And so the podcast is a way to share the stories that have not yet happened, that are going to continue to happen in the KBC community. And even maybe, I think our goal and our dream is that the messages in the book get beyond the people of Northern Virginia, right? They expand out. And so maybe we get some stories of how the message of start before you're ready keeps going, right? Like this is just the kind of, I don't know, the beginning, the middle of the story. So I love the idea of the podcast, and I loved doing the interviews. It turned into a part of the book that I think Kelly and I think you and I didn't really know what was going to happen, right? And a couple of things I'll say about the interviews that happened is we got some great stories, and we were like, first we thought we'd just put quotes here and there in the book. And then we both thought, okay, we have to put these kind of in their entirety because these stories, they have to be told all together. You can't just throw in a quote. So we did. When you read the book, listener, when you read the book, you'll see that there are sections that are really in the words of the people who did the interview. In their words, right? They're telling their own story. But also what happened is, I think for both Kelly and me, it lit us up because we started to see the legitimacy of the message as we were sharing. Kelly has these messages. She shares them all the time. You can put them in a book and share them, but to hear that people have already learned and grown as a result of these messages really helped both of us to say, like, okay, we've got something here, right? We've got something that's going to bring value, which is the goal of the book. And then Kelly, in the book, there's a part called Kelly's Take in each chapter where she talks about her own kind of take, I guess, on each person's story. And that part would have never happened if we hadn't done the interview, right? It gave you the chance to listen to the interview and then to say, okay, let me give my 2 cents about what I'm hearing in this interview and what I witnessed as part of the story. So it's great.
Yeah. Yes. I think themes definitely, she's absolutely right. I think the title came from their stories, because so many people had shared that, how they got started with fitness. Everyone has a story, right? You think everyone's just like, especially a lot of people that are referenced in the book, you look at them and be like, they're just fit rock stars. This is easy for them. This isn't like something that they struggle with, but you learn that everybody has struggles. And the other theme, which is probably, I don't want to sound boastful, but probably like what really meant so much to me, and I don't think I knew it until I read the stories, is that people referenced me believing in them before they believed in themselves, which is true. It was true. I mean, I did. I'm very genuine, so that's not like oh, you can do it type thing. That's not it at all. Like if I feel something, everything I do is feel and intuition, and if I think something, and I do try to put it out there. Some people bite, some people don't. But that was really interesting to me as well. Emily, did you have a favorite chapter or a favorite part?
Yes. I'm glad you're asking that question because I think, and it's hard to choose because every chapter has its own value and its own merit. But I think my favorite chapter is chapter 6, and it's called Start Something, Then Find Your Passion. And I actually think you and I, Kelly, might disagree a little bit on this story because a few times you were like, I don't even think that story is that important. So for those of you that haven't read the book yet, the book shares some experiences and stories from Kelly's life. And this particular one shares an experience at a job when she was 16 years old. She started a job at a restaurant called Friendly's. Maybe some of you all have heard of it, but they serve a lot of ice cream from what I understand and other things. But she worked there, and we tell that story. And one thing I love about it is that it's not about fitness. Working in a restaurant is not about fitness. And I think that's an important note about the book, is that a lot of the stories do revolve around fitness because this is based on a fitness community. But the lessons don't just apply to fitness. They apply to all aspects of life. And so the Start Something, Then Find Your Passion is kind of a way to say start before you're ready, right? Just do the thing, and then you'll figure out what is important to you, where your passion comes from. So I just really love that chapter. I think there's one part in there where you say it gives you the opportunity to discover your passion. Whereas if you keep waiting and you keep planning to do something, to start something new, then there's no room or time for passion. You have to take some action and then give that opportunity. So I like that. And in that chapter is Jenny's story, who has been a longtime friend of Kelly's. And it goes along so well with that Start Something, sort of because of Jenny, but even more I relate that to Kelly because the actions that Jenny took kind of helped Kelly finds her passion in a community. There's a part in Jenny's story where, actually in Kelly's Take, I think of that, where Kelly, you say, I would love to say that when I started that first boot camp, it was all about building a community, but you didn't even know that yet, right? You were just like, I'm going to do this workout and hopefully some people will come and we're going to do this workout. The first one was even a fundraiser. I'm going to do this thing. And then things progressed, and then you found that your passion wasn't just fitness. I get it that fitness is your passion, but it's way bigger than that. So your passion now is more about community and overall growth and development. And I think Jenny's story kind of helps to pull that out.
Yes. And that's that's the subtitle of the book, is The Power of Taking Action.
Yes.
If you would never know that that's what lights you up unless you actually do it. You have to do it. You have to experience it. And I think one of the things that one of my best friends from high school read the book, and she said to me, You know what, Kelly, what I really like about the book, and she's like, no offense, but she's like, you're pretty average. There's nothing you've done that's like, you worked at Friendly's, she's like, but you just, I wasn't even a college athlete. I was a high school athlete. But I remember the things that coaches said to me. When I worked at Friendly's, it mattered. When I had a paper route, it mattered. And that's kind of what one of the messages that I wanted this book to share. It was actually the title for a while in my head. The title of the book was going to be Everything Matters, because all these little things that you do that you think are so important and not noteworthy, they're adding up to take you somewhere or to lead you to the next thing that is going to be valuable for your life. So I love that you said that. I also wanted to ask you, this is kind of a hard question, but what message, Emily, as we were like talking and having so many really powerful conversations, in my opinion, what message did you in your head think we really need to convey this?
Well, I think the overarching message that I want people to take away is that this journey is available to you, the reader, to everyone, right? So sometimes people will they could look at you, Kelly, as, I know your friend said you're average, but you are a successful business owner. You're successfully raising your kids. You are incredibly fit and healthy. So people could look at you and be like, that's kind of like, I'm not going to reach that level. But it's not about that. It's not about reaching someone else's level. And so that's what I love about it, is that all the stories and all of the mantras are shared in a way that they can relate, that the reader, whoever that reader may be, can experience that journey.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Is there a message, Emily, that you think, and you kind of said this, but I'll give you another chance to say it again. Was there a message that you think is going to help the most people? Do you feel like there's something in the book that's really going to resonate with people, or the right people?
Yeah. So, and I'll even relate this to myself, because just as writing the book was therapeutic to you, it was also an opportunity for me to get so deep into those mantras that you share. For people who might not know about Kelly's mantras, there are things like just show up, stay in your lane, everything matters, 2 claps. So there are all these things that Kelly says, and they're very simple, easy to digest words that you can say during a fitness class, right? But I was able to really deep dive into them. And so I grew and changed a lot from learning from those inspiring mantras. And so one of them, which I'm not even sure if you say this in fitness classes, but you said it in one of our calls. And so we named a chapter, I think it's chapter 13, Perfect Isn't There. And that really helped me to grow, and I think it'll help other people to grow too. It goes along with what I was saying, how this is available to everyone, but going a little bit deeper is like, you can't wait for perfect, because it actually isn't there. It's not like, don't wait, just go ahead. It truly isn't there. Perfect isn't a real thing. And so just to acknowledge that in whatever it is you're doing, whether it's fitness, whether it's parenting, and that chapter actually has a lot about your parenting experience, and when you spent some time, when you decided to leave kind of a corporate job and spend time with your boys at home. And Lindsay, I don't think Lindsay was in the picture yet when you made that decision, right? So with your oldest,
right,
3. But yeah, so I think that's kind of like all of these other mantras play into, they only work, all the other things work if you acknowledge that perfect isn't there. That's how you can start before you're ready. That's how you can just show up, because you don't have to wait till you're perfect to show up or to start, because perfect isn't there.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I that's actually making me think of something a little off topic, but definitely relevant. So one of the things that Emily and I would have to stop ourselves from is sharing other material. We're both avid readers. I'm sure her more than me. Podcast listeners, we enjoy a lot of the same content, and I always had like 5 things I wanted to share with her, and she had things where we're showing books and and it was good, distracting in some ways because we were just so much energy between us. However, I will say this, and this goes to the process. So while I was thinking of writing a book, okay, this was years, you guys. This isn't something that this is years. I think when it really, really became something that I wanted to make sure happened, I became a consumer of every bit of material. I've read hundreds of books over the last few years, and it was a way of procrastination, to be totally honest with you. Let me read this book. Let me see what this person said. It wasn't like studying or how, my book was going to be my book. But then I would become critical of other books, like really good books. I'm like, well, I didn't like it because it seems like they were bragging, or it seems like that. So then it was like, well, I don't want to seem like that. And I had so many limiting beliefs, or, what I have to say is really nothing special, or there's just so much head talk that goes on when you do anything. But here I'm writing a book about start before you're ready, perfect isn't there, all these things. And I really had to take my own advice throughout the book. I really had to be like, Kelly, it's okay. If people don't want to read your story, they won't. Like, you're not offending anybody. I had to talk to myself. That voice inside of my head was constantly going. Then I'll tell you the 2 words I heard the most. I hope I don't get emotional, but in my writing, like, who cares? Who cares about friendlies? Who cares about your paper route? Who cares about your dog? Who cares? Who cares? Like, but those stories had meaning to me, and I found value in them. And that's what I wanted to share, because everybody has stories like that. Everybody has stories that might not seem like a big deal, but they end up really mattering. So that is just one aside from the book, that I definitely took my own advice. And another thing that Emily and I had to say, Emily had to coach me with, I was like, if this book helps one person, that was like, I said that over and over and over again. If this book helps one person. And then I realized that person was going to be me, no matter what. Like, this book is helping me in so many ways. So yeah. And one of the things that I value most is finishing. Even if it's not perfect, just being like, okay, it's done. And that was an interesting part of the process. And I am so, so grateful for Emily, because I am pretty sure I would not have finished this if I did not have her on my team, because there were moments where I'm like, I'm done. I can't. And I think there was moments when she was done with me. Like, let's not paint it all to be rosy and, like all these messages and response. It was just like so much, and it was a lot. So
yeah, Kelly,
Emily, what do you say?
I agree that, like, I want to make sure that our listeners know that this was a hard process. Like, all of this, like, oh, it's therapeutic. We got together and we chatted about things. It was hard. Like, even those conversations were hard, and us kind of calling each other out. I remember you one day saying, let's stop reading books, stop bringing up other books, because I would like hold up a book and I'd be like, look how they did the table of contents. Isn't this really cool? And then, like you said, we got so into that. But it was that we did grow from that, right? Like, we learned from other people's books.
Sure.
And I will say, if you're listening right now and you're like, I wonder which books those were, what were they reading? Throughout the book, we did choose some quotes that were some of our very favorite quotes that are in the book, that you'll find in there from a lot of books you've probably heard of and some that you haven't heard of. But so we did learn and grow from that. But there's so much information in every one of these books that we were reading. And so even like how it was formatted and what color it was and was it a hardback and all these things. So yeah, resistance can show up that way, right? It can show up as you're working really hard at this, but is this really reaching your goal of producing a book that's going to, inspire and help at least one person? So yes, no, I agree with that process, that it was difficult for us, and the whole thing was, and I think there's this, I'm not going to have a good story or quote. I think it's what Michelangelo said, or somebody made it up at one point when Michelangelo made David, is that he had a huge block and all he did was chisel away the things that weren't supposed to be there. And I think writing a book is a lot like that. Like, we took everything that's ever happened to Kelly in her life, everything she's ever said in a fitness class, every book we've ever read. We started with that as our big block of stone. And then we're like, now let's get the things out that don't need to be in this particular book. They're not that they're not important. It just didn't need to be in this book with this message about start before you're ready.
Yeah, I think that's good. And that's where Emily really came in, because then I'd be like, wait a minute, where's the part I wrote about this? A lot of stuff gets
I'm
dumped
like,
along the way.
yeah.
And that's hard for me because that feels like a waste. I hate wasting. And that was definitely a hard part of the process, because I would have found a way to stick it all in there because that's how I am. But I think the way it reads now, and I think it's much clearer, and it's definitely going to be much easier for the reader to consume and enjoy. So be thankful to Emily that she was a part of it, or it would have been what I like to call a hodgepodge, which is just how my brain works. And that's, something else that we talked about a little bit in this book, and maybe one of the harder things that I had to share. And I shared it because I think it has significant meaning, and I don't want to be insensitive to anybody that has a true learning disability, but there is something going on in my brain that I lack order. I can't follow a recipe. I can't go from here to here. That's just not how I work. My brain does a lot of other amazing things, but it has been a pain point for me in life. I have struggled with certain things, and it's something that I share in the book, that my limiting belief was my intelligence, that because of those things, I kind of looked at myself as like someone that wasn't very smart. And to me, someone that writes a book is a smart person, right? Like a book. You wrote a book. You're so smart. And that was a huge limiting belief. And one of the things that I try to do in my own life is overcome things so I can help other people do that. And that motivates me. I'm not that's not to say like, oh, I'm altruistic, or that's just what motivates me. Me being able to help other people lights me up. That's what motivates me. So I did have that in the back of my head. Like, Kelly, if you can figure out a way to do this and make this happen, that is going to make you so much more effective in helping other people get over these big hurdles, things that they don't think that they can do.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that you got past the I'm writing a book, that's a smart person thing. You got past that to like, I'm just doing what I do. Like, writing this book was just what you already do, which is to inspire people, help them to overcome obstacles, help them to get started. This was just one more channel to do the work that you already do. So it wasn't as new and different in the end. It sure felt like it in the process, right? To us, it felt like something new and different that we didn't know how to do. But in the end, it was work that you're already skilled at and used to doing. And as you said, that lights you up. Like, the work that you have a passion for is the work that you are continuing to do through the process of creating a book. And now, extending that on, I think we were told early on that, writing a book is just kind of the beginning. But you and I were like, no, we just need to get it, on Amazon and then like check it off. But now, as we get to that point, as we've gotten to the point where we have a manuscript of a book, you're like, oh, well, now is the time when I start a podcast, or now is the time when I start sharing things on social media or in other ways. And so I think we're both now coming into that process of like, okay, just keep going, just keep doing that work. And the book is a tool to do that. But so are a lot of other things as well. Yeah,
for sure. And it does organize a lot of your thoughts. So when you go to do something else, you do have it is definitely great to have such an organized version of things that you value and that you want to share. I think that's definitely true. Okay, Emily, one more question for you. If somebody was thinking of writing a book, what would be your advice to them?
Start before you're ready. I think a lot of people think about writing books. And I will say, we live in a time when writing a book is different than it used to be, right? There's a lot of opportunities to tell your story and to publish in a lot of different ways. We won't get into those different options here, but it's more accessible, like a lot of things. Like making a podcast is more accessible than it used to be because of technology and kind of our modern world. So I would say, I mean, in truth, know that you're not going to write the perfect book and just start writing it. But the second thing, I'm going to answer this in two parts. The second thing I would say is you don't have to do it alone. we've learned through our research, through our own process, but also through like researching other people, I don't think anybody sits down and writes a book on their own and then sends it off to the publisher. Whether they have a collaborator that was as close as Kelly and I were, or whether they just reach out to people during the process, they just have a sounding board, whatever it is, while you may only see one name on the cover of a book, I think every book has many, many people that play into that, that work into that. So if you want to write a book, or if you want to start anything else, just know it's not all on you. You don't have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Think about the people you want to surround yourself with, the people that'll bring positive energy to what you want to do, and then work together with them.
I think that's great advice. All right, I'm gonna stump you with this question.
Oh no.
What was the most annoying thing about working with me?
Well, I'll say one that I know you already know. So
okay.
One time, I think there's some, I can't remember what it was, but something I either wrote or I sent to you or something, and you said, I hate it.
I know
hate
exactly what
everything about that. I don't know why we did that. I don't know why you wrote that. I hate it. And I'm like, oh, shoot. And then I'm the one having all these self-doubts, like maybe I can't do this because I'm obviously we're not on the same page. We're not getting this right. And then you send me a message, I don't know, probably the next day, not very long, maybe 2 days later. And I think you didn't even leave a voicemail. You literally sent a message that you recorded because I think you weren't ready to say it to me. And you said, there's something you have to know about me. I always hate everything the first time. I think that was an exaggeration in true Kelly form. I'm sure you don't always hate everything, but in that statement, you were like, I always hate it. And then sometimes I like it later. So whatever it was I wrote, I think it might have been the introduction of the book, which isn't even what the introduction is now, right? Like we totally changed it. But you were like,
it is.
But then you got so heartfelt in the message because you were like, and now I love it and I love you and I love working with you and I can't wait till our call on Monday. And I'm like, okay. And so then I'm like, oh, Kelly believes in me. So then it starts spinning back around to be like, okay, I think I can do this. I think the two of us together, we can make this happen. So to sum that up, I think the only thing that was annoying, and looking back on it, we can laugh and it's funny and there's no problem whatsoever, but it was the roller coaster of it all. The like ups and the downs, which is life. Anything that's worth doing is going to have that, right? And so it was the roller coaster of like, this is great, this is going to be amazing, to the next week being like, oh, we're never going to get this done. I never once thought we'll get this done and nobody will read it, because I know people will, however many people. But I did think, oh, we're never going to get, this is just never going to happen. And we've invested all of this into it. So yeah, that's a long way to say.
Okay, I'm going to say a few things on that. One is, this is something that really helped me if anyone is writing for some reason. When I would read it back, I wouldn't, I write something and then I read it back. I hate it. And Emily's right. And this is my husband could probably do a better job of making fun of me about this, but we get a new piece of furniture.
No, I think you said that in the message. You were like, you should just ask my husband. I'm like, okay.
Anytime I don't like change. So anytime something's new, I hate it. That just doesn't look right. Or the room color, whatever. And then I like it. If somebody called me on it, someone's like, was it you, Emily? Anyway, somebody recently said to me, I think it was the book cover or something, like, Kelly, you always hate everything at first. I think, was that you?
Probably.
And I was
think
like,
so.
She's calling me on that. That is so true. But so I purchased Natural Reader for the year, and I would go for walks and listen to the chapters, and it helped me a ton, hearing it in someone else's voice. I don't know why, but when I would read it, it would be my voice, and I'd be like, you're so annoying. And then I would hear it from this nice voice from Natural Reader, and I would like it. So that's one tip that I have, if anyone's thinking of writing a book or just their writing. And then the other tip is not just writing a book, guys. This is everything, for me at least. And I'm not afraid to say it. I need an external source. Okay, whether I'm tracking my food, whether I'm trying to write a speech, whatever it is, I need somebody that's going to say, hey, Kelly, this is due on this day. That's just what I need to get things done. I'm very self-motivated. I'm an entrepreneur. I do run a business. I am, but I need it to matter to somebody else. I use my bootcamp community all the time and say, hey guys, look for a message from me on the 1st about this, and this. if I didn't say that to him, that message would never go out there. I need to know that someone else is counting on me. If it's just me, I will let myself down. But if somebody else is counting on me, then I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen. So that is something that is a great lesson for you could really apply it to anything in life. And everybody's different. You might not have that, but I think most of us are, based on what I know about my boot campers, unless I say screenshot a picture of that to me or whatever, I need proof they're not doing it. So that's what we've learned.
Yeah, having those weekly calls, and we had calls that were set weekly, and knowing that we had those coming, I think for both of us was like, okay, this is coming on Monday. And we discussed that we were going to move forward in this way. And so it gave each of us that accountability that, you know, if you were writing the book on your own, you would have been like, well, I said I'd do it Monday, but Monday's busy. I'm just going to do it Tuesday. But you knew I was waiting for whatever that thing was. So, you know, most of the time, then that was enough to get it done.
Yes. So you guys, this has been I was really anxious about this conversation just because I knew what I wanted it to be like, and it feels like how I wanted it to be. So I'm really happy about that. And again, Emily, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of this process for me, helping me make a dream come true, and just being so much fun to work with. I learned so much from you, and you're such a giving person, and I like to surround myself with people that I want to be more like, and you're kind, and you're giving, and you're thoughtful, and you see the value in people's quirks and in their strengths, and I love that, and I just really enjoyed working with you, so I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Well, I will go right back to you and say thank you for this opportunity. I don't know if I ever would have had an opportunity to write a book, and now I know that I've done it. And if there's other people that want to collaborate and work together, I'm ready to do that. I go into that with confidence, and that's a gift you gave me by believing in me first and encouraging me to do it. So thank you.
Yes, she is so ready to do that, you guys. If you have it on your heart to write a book, she's probably going to kill me because she's probably going to kill me. But honestly,
bring it on.
She's so fun to work with. It really is. We're about to end at 11:11, Emily. I just looked down at my phone. It's 11:10.
Of course we are.
So we're about to end at 11:11, which that doesn't surprise me. But you will really, really enjoy working with Emily. And it is about the process. It's, of course, wonderful to have a book in your hands, which the book is going to be in our hands in by the time you guys hear this, the book might already be in your hands. But it is really wonderful to have a book in your hands. And the last thing I'm going to say is we both got distracted this summer, and it was really supposed to be done by the end of the summer. And it ended up not being. And then what happened was Kelly, we worked with Scripter Publishing, who I highly recommend as well. We loved working with Kelly Watson. But when it ended up finishing up, Kelly sent me, okay, it looks like your launch date is going to be November 10th. We always launch on a Tuesday. And I was like, hell, if it's going to launch on November 10th, it's going to launch on 11/11 because those are my numbers. You'll read in the book about 11/11 and why that's significant to me. So we're finishing this up right at 11/11. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.